What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Run Pier Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. We're covering the massive 14-game slate, and we're battling the haters right out of the gate. I mean, we do a good job racking up these likes. The haters don't like to see it. They're working overtime to get the dislikes up. 7 dislikes out of the gate. We're going to own them with a ton of likes today, but as I said here, we're talking the 14-game MLB slate. We got my boy DC. And more importantly, we got our boy Title, who is, this has got to be like a holiday for him. The Bucks, Suns kicking it off in the finals, his 2 teams that he's been kind of pushing for all season. But he's still here with us pre-game. Title, you got to be excited tonight, right, brother?
I cannot wait. These are the 2 teams that I've wanted all along. I'm a Bucks fan my whole life, all along. So now there's only one team I'm cheering for, but the Suns, I loved what I saw for them the regular season. We talk sports on the NBA hardwood every day. We fall in love with teams. I like Chris Paul. I like Devin Booker. I like Monty Williams. They play good basketball, and yeah, I couldn't be any happier seeing the Bucks Suns. But now I only have one team. It's the Bucks. So unfortunately, I can't cheer for the Suns. They did what they had to do. Go Bucks. I can't wait, though. It should be a lot of fun. Big MLB slate too. The haters are always out here. Seven dislikes. Hey, you love to see it. They don't know that it helps us. They think it hurts. I don't know what they think. But yesterday, Mango looked at YouTube at like 9:30 at night. We just put up the header, and there was already a dislike. So I think people got notifications waiting for us to go up just to hit that dislike button. Hey, you're doing something right when you got haters. So we love to see it. We even love the haters a little less than the people we love, but we appreciate everyone.
The best part about those people, they're tuning into the shows. Like, there's no doubt about it. Dislikes, but they're watching and listening. I can guarantee that. But, the best way to fight those haters is, if you see the show up there on YouTube, just pop in and hit the like right on top of those dislikes from the haters. We'll get them back that way. DC, what's going on? Any thoughts on the dislikes or the NBA Finals before we hop into some MLB?
I wonder what it is they dislike. Are they not fans of DC? Is it hoop that bothers them? Perhaps the title town. Maybe they don't like the early NBA talk. Maybe it's the format of the show. They would prefer a game by game analysis, but it's a position by position. They're not fans of that. So I don't know. I would just like some clarification, because we would like to please everybody, right? We get like the 250 to 300 likes. You get the 7 dislikes, but hey, better off would be just a unanimous like through. So reach out to me, haters, if you're watching. 7 of you. My DMs are open on Twitter always. Tell us how we can improve so we can turn that dislike into a like. We're here to please.
Let us earn your like. Let us turn your dislike into a like. Just give us the opportunity. I really think
that's all we ask.
That's all we ask. That is all we ask. That is for sure. Big slate, like we talked about, Jacob DeGrom on the mound, and, I guess we'll just kind of go in and talk about it. Again, it's kind of crazy because everyone gives FanDuel a lot of crap about their pricing, but they continue to be much sharper with the pitching pricing. You can still obviously play DeGrom on FanDuel quite easily, but you don't have to sacrifice as much on DK to play him. The prices are somewhat similar. You look at the 11.8 price tag on FanDuel on DK is coming in at 11.5. The top tier pricing on DK for these pitchers just needs to go up. 11.5 is not enough for DeGrom on DK. Very easy to play him and still get some of these elite bats. DC, talk to me about DeGrom today. I think it's a topic of its own. Very hard, in my opinion, to fade him today on the slate in any format.
Yeah, I agree with kind of like half of what you said, where I do agree that DeGrom's price needs to be higher because he's on a tier of his own. But in terms of raising the prices of the top tier pitching in general, like they needed to do that back in April, right? When the aces were dominating every single time out. It's not the case anymore. Most of these slates, especially a 14 game slate like we've got tonight, offense carries the day. You got to hit the right stack, right? You need, home runs from almost all of your lineup spots. You need your stack to go off for 10 plus runs. And so DeGrom is kind of an exception for me, where I don't have a problem with basically pretty much every other pitcher being priced in that kind of 10K range at this point, because a lot of these guys have proven to be minefields. I mean, even last night, Joe Musgrove kind of joins the group of pitchers who look kind of like aces, but no longer do. It's a long list at this point, right? But nothing's slowing down Jacob DeGrom. That much is clear. Only himself, right? Only when he's like, I feel a little twinge in my shoulder or my back, and I got to come out of the game. That's really the only thing that can slow him down. He's going to mow through this Milwaukee lineup like he does every single other lineup. I mean, even last game against the Braves, right, who are a very good offense, who've been hot. It was in Atlanta. They get him for 3 runs in the first inning. And he comes back and he strikes out 14 guys. You know, it's just like he's on a level of his own. He really is. So I'm with you. I think you should just find a way to fit him in on as many of your lineups as you can. I will say there are some really, really good offenses tonight in really good spots. Specifically the Blue Jays stand out to me as a team that you want to stack, but they're all super expensive. And it's hard to get a 5-man Blue Jays stack in with DeGrom, right? So you do have to kind of choose one or the other. So that, to me, is kind of the only case for a DeGrom fade, is to try to get in a full stack of one of the very, very top tier offenses. But yeah, I mean, DeGrom just incredible. He's going to be awesome tonight. There's no doubt about it. It's just kind of the surest bet in baseball right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do agree. Obviously, with this new, the spin, right, the sticky substance, we
had a big effect on a lot of pitchers. Like
you just can't deny it. And I mean, you were kind of the first one on it, so I mean, definitely kudos to you for kind of leading the charge on all this. And you're starting to see it. I mean, Musgrove last night, I mean, that was he was 5 earned runs, I believe, in the first 2 innings, like 0 strikeouts. I mean, he couldn't get out. Giolito the other day, like you said, I mean, it's just a big group of these guys, but clearly DeGrom is just in a class of his own. I mean, there was already big separation between DeGrom and the next best guy. With all this going on, that separation is even more. Just in the opening, I should have clarified.
It's like doubled, not like against every pitcher, but like it's crazy how big the separation is right now. I think DeGrom has been completely clean this entire time. There's nothing in the data, the spin rate, nothing to say that he's going to slow down. And you look at his 32 DraftKings fantasy points per game on the season, which, leads the baseball by far. I mean, a lot of that is like some came out early of starts, right? Only got to pitch like 65 to 80 pitches. And now he did throw 93. He appears fully healthy. You never know for sure. This Milwaukee lineup, I know they've been hot recently, but we were on Tyler McGill last night, right? And he was really good against this team. So yeah, I think DeGrom's just going to mow through this lineup with ease, frankly.
Yeah, title. I'm assuming that you're on the same page. I mean, you just kind of lock him on, and to me, it's just like a free square situation. And even on FanDuel, where you only have to play one, and it's tough to get. I mean, if you're going to play DeGrom, it's very tough to stack up the Toronto offense tonight. That's in a phenomenal spot. In my opinion, I just want DeGrom in every single lineup that I'm making tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to play DeGrom in every single lineup I have for sure. If I had 150, I'd play him in 150 and then figure out SP2, which there are some questions at SP2 actually. The only thing about DeGrom that we're going to have to monitor a little bit. I've seen some people talking weather, the possibility for a delay, this and that. I'm not a weatherman. I know we learned last time when we talked about weather, the game got postponed 2 minutes or something after we were talking about it, but I don't know what's going to go on. If the weather's good and everything's good to go, he's going to be in every single one of my lineups. If there's delays, problems, and stuff like that, we'll be in Discord talking about it. But we're going to talk like we assume it's playing. DeGrom will be in every single one of my lineups. I mean, his K props at 10.5, which is absolutely nuts. The Brewers' offense is implied for 2.7 total runs. That's over a full run lowest and the second lowest on the slate. He's the best pitcher by far in baseball. Brewers' offense. Yeah, I mean, the Brewers are good because of their pitching, but yeah, their offense isn't very good. Strikeouts in the lineup. Every lineup, 150, I would have them in 150 if there's no weather concerns.
Yeah, so, when you're able to lock in one guy, it kind of simplifies your lineup in a sense. But, I mean, you still are paying a premium. Like I said, on FanDuel, you're going to have to make some sacrifices on DK. guess it kind of depends what you do at SP2 in terms of what sort of sacrifices you need to make in your lineup. We have one game that looks pretty bad from a weather standpoint. Those are two pitchers that are somewhat viable. The White Sox Twins game looking pretty iffy tonight, and we have two guys, Rodon and Berrios, in that game. Rodon's 10-3, Berrios is 8-8. DC, are these guys that you have interest in? I mean, have you monitored this weather situation? What are your thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, I have been monitoring this because I do have more interest in Rodon, but I do think this game's going to play. I didn't think so, right, when you woke up and you looked at kind of the precipitation report. But it looks like so far, almost all the rain has stayed north of Target Field, like just north. It's one of those situations where like 10 to 20 miles north of Target Field and like 100 miles beyond that, it's just like been straight rain all day. But none of that, as far as I can tell, is really falling on Target Field, and kind of is going to stay that way. It's just kind of, one of those lines where it's like how the heat, again, not a weatherman, but it seems like it's going to miss Target Field. So I do think this game is going to play. Not a sure thing whatsoever, but that's my expectation at this point. Yeah, Carlos Rodon, I think, is the only guy on the slate who could match DeGrom, even if DeGrom has a good game, right? Even if DeGrom is himself, strikes out 11, 12 guys, which I think is kind of should be the expectation for him, frankly. Rodon could do it too. I think some people are going to look at his last two games, which, weren't bad, but weren't what you're paying for at a 10K plus pitcher, and say, oh, he's probably one of these pitchers that's been affected by the changes. I don't actually think so with Carlos Rodon. I don't think he's going to be affected. I think he's going to bounce right back to kind of what he was doing. And when he's rolling, I mean, you could mow down a lineup too, right? He can easily get 10K plus strikeouts. I don't think we'll see 10K strikeouts from anyone else on this slate. Rodon will go deep into games, right? You'll oftentimes get 100 plus pitches, and this Twins lineup, they've got plenty of strikeouts in there for sure. So I do like Rodon a little bit. It's really hard to get both him and DeGrom in there. If you're fading DeGrom for some reason, I would want to get Rodon because he can beat DeGrom straight up, right? DeGrom can put up 30 DraftKings points, which is a good game. Good, not great for DeGrom. And Rodon could surpass him for 1,200 less. So I think that's kind of the pivot if you want to make it. And again, if you're trying to stack some of these teams, those $1,200 can come in handy. So that would be the pivot to me for DeGrom, but it's just tough to fit in both, and certainly prefer DeGrom by a pretty wide margin. But if you want to do it, that would be the one I would do.
Title, talk to me about Rodon. Is going, double stud, DeGrom and Rodon possible tonight, and then go into some of the other guys that you're considering at SP2 tonight.
Yeah, so assuming this game is fine, Carlos Rodon, this is where cash games and tournaments you get a little different. Tournaments you want to chase that upside. You want the double dongs. Vlad Guerrero could easily double dong, even triple dong. Whereas if you're going to pay for, like, there's Ryan Zimmerman, who's 2,100, where he'll allow you to get the Rodon and DeGroms, which pitchers where in cash games is really safe. And I try and spend up when I can. And Carlos Rodon's the clear SP2 on this slate. Twins have a 3.9 total. Rodon is 8.5 strikeout prop. Rodon, as DC was talking about, he's the one guy that could have double-digit strikeouts outside of DeGrom and put up a big score. So I actually, if the game is fine, I do want to pair Rodon and DeGrom in tournaments. The Phillies are also really, really cheap on DraftKings, in a very good spot at Wrigley again. Not quite as good as yesterday, but still, wind's blowing out. Arrieta's not good. We have cheap bats as we always have. So if the game plays, Rodon and DeGrom are my favorite pairings. Outside of that, like, Rodon is not even close to a must SP2. I would definitely be mixing in different SP2s. Another guy dropping down a little bit, and I know people are going to hate hearing this name after what he did last time out, but Shohei Ohtani's 8.3K. He's a guy in tournaments. This is where I'd want to play Rodon over Ohtani for sure because of the risk, but Ohtani has upside. I'm curious to hear what DC said. Last start was just awful. Couldn't even get out of the first inning. Now he gets a little better matchup for pitching wise, but Boston doesn't walk too much. They swing a lot. I don't love picking on Boston, but Ohtani, they have a 4.2 implied total. Does Boston. Ohtani has the upside at 8.3K. And that's, the other pitchers I like, Pablo Lopez, who I think is a pretty good real life pitcher, 7.7K. He gets a very tough matchup against the Dodgers. John Gray, 7.3K. He gets a good matchup against Arizona, but he's not even close to the same tier as Pablo Lopez or Ohtani. Dane Dunning, 7.4K. Gets a matchup against Detroit, which Detroit's been swinging a pretty hot bat as of late. Those are the four guys outside of DeGrom and Rodon that I'm really keying in on because you get that salary saver to then spend up at bats. Ohtani, I'm going to go right back to him in tournaments because of his upside. Pablo Lopez at 7.7K. I feel more safe with, but I don't love the upside as much. I think he's a good pitcher, but this Dodgers team's pretty healthy now. And then John Gray and Dunning, if you're making a lot of lineups, you can mix some Pablo Lopez in those two, but Pablo Lopez is the same price as those guys, and I'd much rather Lopez. So I see it. DeGrom clear SP1, Rodon the SP2 I want to get. Ohtani in tournaments I'm going to take some shots at, and then Pablo Lopez down there at 7.7K is the cheapest. That's my favorite. Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely have interest in most of those guys that you mentioned. Lopez at 7.7, I think nice price tag for him. Matchup against the Dodgers can be somewhat tough, but I don't hate that. Dunning is a guy I have interest in at 7.4 as well. DC, talk to me about some of the SP2s that you're considering here tonight.
Yeah, just briefly on Ohtani. I mean, he's by far the hardest pitcher to predict from start to start because you just no idea what you're going to get out of him. I mean, his velocity fluctuates wildly. We saw last start. I don't think he got out of the first inning against the Yankees. Couldn't throw strikes. It really didn't have anything to do, I don't think, with the Yankees. I think any major league team would have got him out in the first inning because he just couldn't throw any strikes. I just stood there. So in terms of looking at matchups and stuff, it really kind of just depends on what Ohtani has on that day. If he's got his good stuff, he's going to pitch well. If he doesn't, he'll be out of there in the first or second inning. I mean, we've seen it from him. Maybe 3 or 4 times this year. We've seen it from him in the past, and it's just impossible to predict. So I have no problem playing Ohtani because if he's on his game, he'll do well against any team, including the Red Sox. We'll get to stacks, but the Red Sox 2% owned stack. I mean, there's at least a 10 to 20% chance. I was talking about this in Discord, a 10 to 20% chance that Ohtani just kind of does the same thing that he did against New York. He can't throw strikes for whatever reason. And then they have nobody in the bullpen. And then you've got a great lineup in the Red Sox. So a fun stack there, just a little bit of an aside. Other guys you talked about, yeah, Dunning I'm okay with. Detroit, though, they're kind of coming on strong right now, and they don't really let Dunning go deep into games anyway. So I don't know. And then Pablo Lopez, man, tough matchup, right? That Dodgers lineup looking pretty good today. They're getting some guys back healthy. So that makes me a little bit nervous, but I agree with you guys in Miami. I think that's a good way to go. I like John Gray. I like what I've seen from him, but Arizona probably going to roll out 6 or 7 lefties there at home tonight. So I don't love that for John Gray. He's much better generally against right-handed hitters, and even the Coors Field thing, it's still good that he's on the road, but he's actually been quite a bit better at home than on the road. So it's not like you get some giant bump, right, where he's always good when he's on the road and not at home. It just hasn't been the case for him. So I'll throw in a couple more guys that I'm looking at. I haven't heard much chatter about him today, but I really like Johnny Cueto here at home against St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis just hasn't been hitting. It's been a struggle for them. And Cueto is averaging over double the amount of fantasy points per game this season when he's at home compared to when he's on the road. He's much better against right-handed hitters than he is against lefties. Probably only 2 lefties in there against Cueto, which are, Dylan Carlson and Tommy Edman. Decent players, but neither guy has a lot of power or anything, and Cueto's going to throw those guys strikes. So I think Cueto is actually pretty damn safe at 7,700. Not the most exciting guy to recommend, but I do think he's got a shot at a big game. And I'll throw in 2 more guys. Luis Castillo, I always have interest in him. And KC, I'm not super scared of this lineup right now. So I think he's an option at 8,500, good upside. And then I do like Merrill Kelly at 9,200. I don't like the price, that's for sure, but you're going to get him incredibly low owned. He gets Colorado after a week in Coors Field. We've seen what the Rockies do on the road, especially after playing in Coors. It's really, really bad. And Kelly has made some changes to his game that have really kind of led to somewhat of a kind of a mid-season breakout here. Last 3 games, 7 innings, 6 innings, 7 innings. What does he have? 17 strikeouts to 1 walk over that time. He started throwing his cutter, which has always been his best pitch, up from 10% to 30% of the time. We've seen guys like Corbin Burns, not to compare the two, but just stop throwing so many fastballs, start throwing a little more cutters, and it can make a huge difference. So I do expect Merrill Kelly to pitch very well tonight against Colorado. It's just, how much upside does he really have at 9,200, right? It's kind of hard for him to get to the top of the heap. He would need, Rodon to not have a good start, something like that, and things to go a little bit, sideways on the slate, and then he could emerge with like a 25-point fantasy game that gets you there. But yeah, it's tough. SB2, I think there are obviously a number of ways you can go here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 14-game slate. Obviously, a lot of different options, a lot of different ways to go. Before we hop into the position players, just wanted to remind you guys we still have that promo going. RPS Heater 25 gets you 25% off your first payment on a monthly package at Run Pure Sports. That includes everything on the website, all one price, no upcharges when new sports begin like the other sites in the industry. One price, everything on the site. DFS package, $80, DFS plus bets, $100. Use that promo code, you get 25% off that. Tonight, we have a special show. JSU Holden and Big T will be on talking MLB, and then they're going to roll right into the NBA Showdown breakdown, which has been an absolute print fest. Big T has just been on absolute fire breaking down these Showdown slates. So those guys will talk MLB, then they'll go right into NBA, and that is part of the premium package. So you need to be a member to view that show. So get on over and sign up. Let's talk catcher. And, last night we all were stroking ourselves to JT Real Muto and super excited to play him. And then on the show, we get the lineup and Knapp was in there. And we all kind of said, I don't like Knapp all that much.
Of course he homered, yeah.
First bomb, too.
Just absolute first bomb of the game. Or, yeah, right? It was 0-0 when he hit that. Absolute bomb just to own us. But Real Muto is back in there today, and he is only 3.7K. The wind, not as strong, not as hot tonight, but still really, really good hitting environment. That total is sitting at 10. Last night it got up to 11 and a half, but still a phenomenal spot for the Phillies tonight, 3.7K. He is a very strong option. We have Tyler Stevenson, 4.1K, batting second. Reds are in a really good spot. Then one other name I wanted to mention, John Hicks for the Rangers, batting fifth tonight. And, small sample size, but he's on an absolute heater. I believe he just got called up, I want to say. I don't know if he got called up or came off an injury, but in his first 2 games, he's 4 for 8 with 3 bombs in his first 2 games since being called up or coming off injury. I don't know what it is. I think he's in play here at 2.8K. Those are just a couple of the guys that I have interest in. Title, what are you thinking here at catcher?
I'm going to play one guy, and it's JT Real Muto. He's just, what's DraftKings doing? This is part of the reason you can go Rodon. And he's $1,400, $1,500 underpriced. Phillies are one of the best offenses on the slate. They have a total of 10, or the over-under in the game's 10, and that's with Aaron Nola, a very good pitcher on the mound too. Phillies are definitely the better spot. 3.7K is just way too cheap in the 2-hole. I'm not going to say anyone else's name because I'm not going to play anyone else. There are some other options. A Hicks guy on another slate, but hey, there's a free square for you. DeGrom Real Muto. I just gave 2 free squares in my lineups. Hard not to play him. Very chalky, of course, but
one of the main things we try to do here at Run Pure Sports is make things simple and easy, and we're not gonna, make things super complex and confusing. We like to make it easy, and that's one way to make it easy. You're playing Real Muto. I'm doing the same. If you're a member at Run Pure Sports, you'll see on the cash chart that Real Muto is the highlighted play at catcher. So surprise, surprise, there's a freebie for the day. I'm with Title. Now this is where it gets interesting in tournaments, and that's why DC is one of the best in the industry. Real Muto is going to be very, very popular. He's in a really good spot. He's batting second. The price tag is way, way too low. We talked about it yesterday. Probably, in my opinion, 1,700. He's probably a 5.55 type player, low to mid 5 player, and he's only 3.7K. How do you handle this situation in tournaments, DC?
Yeah, that last point you brought up was the exact same thing I was going to say. If he was 5,500 on the slate, I would still be trying to find a way to kind of get him in there, right? It wouldn't be like a super priority play, but it would be one that I would want to get if I could afford it, if I could find options at other spots, because there's not that many other good spots on the slate is part of the problem, right? And then you've got Real Muto, who is just massively, massively underpriced. I'm with you guys. He is going to be in most of my lineups by far and away the best point per dollar option to catcher. I don't think there is any disputing it whatsoever. Yeah, the Hicks call is interesting. I certainly prefer lefties against Urania in general. I was kind of hoping Jonah Heim was going to be in there, frankly, but any dude that's hit three bombs and what is it, 8 at bats? I mean, against a bad pitcher, I think that's a fine way to go. Tyler Stevenson, I think, is kind of the obvious pivot there at just a little bit more at 4,100 against Bubic for the Royals, who hasn't been very good and throws from the left side. So, I mean, you just got to make the decision for yourself, right? It's just Real Muto's clearly the best play. He will be the most popular catcher, no question about that either. Does a 30 to 40% own Real Muto probably in tournaments, something like that. Is that enough to move off of him? I don't think so myself, but I'm sure there's some exact math that you could put in all the projections and look at the exact ownerships and say, actually, no, maybe this would be the better long-term play, but I don't know for sure what the exact answer to that is. So I would just suggest to play Real Muto and worry about the rest of your lineup, frankly.
Yep. I mean, I obviously agree with that. And, it's a 14-game slate too. So, I mean,
there will be other catchers that have good games, no question about that. But
so I with 14 games, you can always count on ownership, maybe being a little more spread out. So I think you play him if he's your favorite catcher. Don't worry about it. Plug him in and kind of move on. If you're going to stack teams up, then obviously look elsewhere. But for me, if I'm making one team, cash team specifically, just playing Real Muto, I think is the smart way to go. Well, let's talk. Go ahead.
In tournaments, I think sometimes you can overestimate the ownership of hitters because almost everybody's stacking these days, right? And so oftentimes hitters can't get too high owned because it's hard if the stack itself isn't that high owned. I do think Philly will be one of the more popular stacks, but people will include their catcher in alternative stacks. So I don't think you'll see Real Muto approach 50% in tournaments. Maybe at high stakes a little bit higher, but yeah, I still think he's worth it. It's just such a good play here.
Just think about Wander Franco that one day when he was min price at 2K and he was still way lower than
he was like 33% on. It's just like
exactly. Yeah. And we thought, it's always think
it's a similar situation to that. I agree. Yep.
Yeah, and sometimes we kind of always get caught up in our bubble a little bit and just make assumptions that could end up being wrong, and who knows? I mean, we all look for certain things, and obviously going to Real Muto today for us seems very obvious. To others, it might not be. So, I mean, I always say, if you like a guy,
play him.
Play him. Yeah,
because if he double dongs and you overthought yourself and galaxy brained it, you're not going to be happy. So we're not overthinking it. We're playing it.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to first base. And again, it's a 14-game slate. A lot of these positions are going to be very loaded. There's going to be a lot of guys who want to play. At the top of the pricing spectrum, Vlad Guerrero, 6.2K. Phenomenal play. I mean, best, best high, who do I think is going to score the most fantasy points on the slate? Probably Vlad Guerrero. Can you play him at 6.2? Well, a lot of that probably depends on what you do at SB2. On FanDuel, if you play DeGrom, it's pretty damn hard to play Vlad. He's 4.6K. Yes, you can make it happen, but it's hard. Clearly, the highest raw projected hitter for me on the slate. Some other guys at first base, got Nate Lowe or Lau, whichever one it is. Batting second, 4.2K. I think he's in play a little bit. Another guy, kind of like Trey Mancini. I like the Orioles a little bit. I don't think they're going to be as highly owned. I mean, we've got the Blue Jays, who will get a lot of ownership, but Mancini on the other side, 4.3K. I think that's a nice price tag for him. Ryan Mountcastle as well, 3.9K. Freddie Freeman also, a little bit below Vlad Guerrero at 5.9K. I think he's a fine option too. A lot of different ways you can go here at first base. DC, give me your thoughts here at first.
Yeah, I wouldn't say just because it's a hitter position, like I wouldn't put Vladimir Guerrero as far above the field as I would put Jacob DeGrom, but I mean, it's not that different. There's just more variance, right? In the hitters, like Jacob DeGrom, you get 25 to 30 matchups, right, to kind of realize your expectation, where Vlad gets, I would assume 5 in this game against Baltimore. But man, what a strong play. I mean, it's at 92 degrees with wind blowing out in Camden Yards. Orioles announced a new pitcher today. I forget who it was supposed to be, but now Spencer Watkins will make his MLB debut. I mean, the thing you need to know about Watkins is he was not on the team because the club deemed him not as good as Matt Harvey and Tom Eshelman, and you go on and on and on. The point is, Baltimore doesn't have any pitchers, right? Like this is not a prospect coming up. This is like a guy who's been getting hit hard at AAA, against, like, if you look at like who the best hitters at AAA were, they're guys like Gavin Sheets and Spencer Larnack or Trevor Larnack, right? Guys who like come up here and they're like $2,800 players. He's getting hit hard by those guys every start out. Now he's got to face this Blue Jays team in Camden Yards, and it's not going to go well for him. And they don't have anyone in the bullpen that's good. It's just, I mean, Blue Jays, I'm surprised their team total is not higher than it is, frankly. I thought it was going to be up near or over 7 when I saw this change. I think it's at 6 still, which again, I think is just way too low. I don't really understand it, frankly. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Blue Jays talk. Point is, Vladimir Guerrero, by far the best play on the slate. I do think he should be a priority, even as as expensive as he is. Like you mentioned, Hoop, same game, Mancini and Mountcastle. I think both guys are strong plays. Really hard to pick between the two of them. Both only first base eligible on DraftKings. I don't really have a strong lean there. And yeah, I guess a couple of guys you can go cheap with. Andy Ibanez for the Rangers is at 2,200. Ryan Zimmerman at 2,100. And then I do still like Ryan O'Hearn a little bit. Upside against Luis Castillo at 2,800. And assuming the Minnesota game looks good to go, I think it will be Gavin Sheets for the White Sox at 2,500. Can play him at first base or outfield. So there are a few cheap options, but I'm getting up to Vlad if I can.
Yeah. Title thoughts at first. I mean, me and DC both agree. I mean, Vlad Guerrero, if you can do it, phenomenal play today. And I agree. I mean, the team total has come up a little bit. Like the implied team total is so about 6 3/4. But yeah, I'm with you. It seems still seems a little bit too light.
Oh, it's approaching 7 already?
Yeah, well, the game total went up to, the game total actually came down to 10. It was 11.5. It's down to 10.5. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I saw, which is strange.
Yeah, that total came down like an entire run. That's interesting. Title thoughts here.
Yeah, I don't even have a name that you guys didn't mention. I think you guys are right on. Vlad up top for sure. I'm not going to probably have the money, unfortunately, because I want to go Rodon, DeGrom with the SP2s, but I definitely love them. Freddie Freeman's the tournament pivot. Very, very strong tournament pivot too. I like the Orioles, Mountcastle, and Trey Mancini if you have the money. Nate Lowe, I like Texas. We prefer lefties against Urena. Really like that price tag. And then if you want to go down, Ryan O'Hearn, definitely I like him in tournaments, 2.8K. Very similar to Boston with Ohtani. You can, anytime Castillo pitches or Ohtani pitches, you can play them because they're upside, or you can stack against them with how wild they are. And yeah, he could be out in the first, second inning too. Then the last one, Ryan Zimmerman, I mentioned earlier, 2.1K. He makes it easy to go like Rodon and DeGrom and stuff. Against the lefty, I expect him to be in the lineup. He's free, hits lefties well, probably going to be in the 4 hole. So a lot of options at first in every single tier.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Zimmerman, another guy. Yeah, 2.1K. I mean, he makes it easy to go ahead and play all the guys you want at pitcher and the hitting position. So, all right, let's talk second base. And second base is a lot more weak than the first base position, which it typically is. At the top, obviously we have Marcus Semien, but you're paying a premium, 5.6K for him. If I can only choose a couple of these Toronto bets, I don't know if Semien is going to be the guy at 5.6K. Jonathan India, 4.5K, strong play there. I like the Reds. And then the last guy who I think will have some good ownership is Gene Segura, only 3.3K leading off in that Wrigley game. Go to your first title town thoughts here at second.
Yeah, Gene Segura is definitely the chalkier play. You get the 1-2 Real Muto Segura. As I mentioned earlier, the Phillies are underpriced, but second base is a little stronger than catcher is all around. Not too much stronger, but like Jonathan India at 4.5K in the mid tier against Bubik. Cincinnati's a good implied team total. I don't think they're played at all, really. So I like him. Marcus Semien, if you do have the money, but I know I won't have the money today, since I'd rather play Vlad if I go all the way up. Whit Merrifield against Castillo too, 4.7K. He can easily jack in a box. He can steal a bag. He's just a very good player. 4.7K is way too cheap. Royals gets you with O'Hearn too. Ozzy Albies 5.9K if you're going to go all the way up. If you're paying down to like a Pablo Lopez Ohtani pairing or something like that and go Freddie Freeman Albies, there's so much upside there. They're going to be so low owned together. And we like lefties against Cool more. So I prefer going Freeman Albies and focus on the lefties. And then you can pay down in the outfielder stuff, something instead of going Acuna. Other than that, yeah, I'm going to probably play Gene Segura. India's the pivot in the mid tier with Whit Merrifield. And if you have the money, Albies and Semien up top.
DC, second base.
Yeah, I think you'll see Segura. I feel relatively confident he'll be the highest owned second baseman on the slate on DraftKings at 3,300. One thing that's interesting about Arrieta, obviously a good hitting matchup, just pure hitting, and then you throw in Arrieta's not very good. Then you throw in the weather in Wrigley, right? 88 10-mile-per-hour winds out. That makes a big difference. And then you look at the Phillies have some speed. Arrieta's given up 8 stolen bases to 0 caught stealings for the year, and the top 4 in that Phillies lineup, Segura can run. Real Muto is the best stealing catcher in baseball. Harper can run, and McCutchen can run. So you add it all up, and it's just a great spot for the Phillies. And so you will see Segura, in cash games, I don't think it's even a question of who you should play on DraftKings. So Segura would be the way to go there. If you're fading the Phillies in tournaments, I don't know if I would one-off someone like Gene Segura, as enticing as his price is, just because I think if Segura has a big game here, the Phillies are going off in general, right? So I would want to kind of include him in a stack myself. Couple cheaper options. Josh Harrison for the Nationals, I think should be likely leading off today against Ryan Weathers, who I know his numbers look good, but I'm still willing to roster righties against him if Harrison is indeed leading off. I think he's a fair enough play. Willie Castro for the Tigers is 2,500. I think he'll be in there. Haven't seen that lineup yet. But yeah, it's not a great position. Ramon Urias for Baltimore. He's got some pop against Steven Matz hitting 7th in that great ballpark. So some pivots there, but Segura, if you're just trying to get the best point per dollar on the point per dollar play at the position, he's clearly the top guy. I just don't think it's relatively close. Honestly, it's almost like a JT Real Muto situation. So now you got, the clear best play catcher and the clear best play at second base, hitting first and second in the lineup. So you can start to kind of see that I think the Phillies are going to be super popular because they've got some of the very, very top options at each position. And so that just kind of even further inflates an already good stack, right? Where everyone's like, oh, I like this guy, might as well complete the stack here. So I think you'll see the Phillies, rightfully so, be very popular tonight.
Yeah, it's a pricing thing. We got the expensive pitcher in DeGrom, and you have these underpriced Phillies guys.
They're the only premium stack you can get with DeGrom is kind of the point, right?
Yeah. Very, very popular route for sure. The price tags on these Phillies guys are way too low. All right, let's talk third base, and really don't have a Phillies guy here, but we have some other pretty good value plays that we can consider. Brock Holt leading off for the Rangers. He's 3.2K. If you want some Blue Jays exposure, Biggio, 4.3K, batting 6 tonight. Suarez, 3.9K. Really like the Reds. I mean, I think a lot of people probably agree and will be on the Reds. 3.9K is a good price tag for him. Austin Riley, 4.2K, another guy that I have some interest in. Go to you first, DC. Talk to me about the third base position.
Yeah, this looks like a pretty decent spot to spend down, right, and save a little money. We've talked about, trying to get DeGrom in there. I'm trying to get Vlad in there wherever I can. I don't see a third baseman who stands out above the field like Vlad does at first base to me. So usually what that typically tells me is, go to someone cheaper, right? Try to find some value at the position. I think you can certainly do it. I definitely like the guys you mentioned. I'll throw Eugenio Suarez into the mix against Bubic. He's hitting 5th in Kansas City. He's been swinging it a little bit better, and the power has been there. I think he's a pretty phenomenal play. I do like Brock Holt. I'll play almost any lefty, frankly, against Jose Urena, Brock Holt included. Orlando Arcia, I mentioned him yesterday. I think he went 0 for 4, but back in there today for the Braves. I do expect him to hit a little bit for this Braves team. He's 2,600, third base, shortstop eligible against Chad Cole. And I do like the Braves, not nearly as much as some other teams, but certainly like them. And then just a brief note on Kevin Biggio, because I think some people might be hesitant to play him. He was just awful at the beginning of the season. Then he went on the IL with like a neck strain that he was almost certainly just like playing through for a month, your neck's hurting, you think you can play, maybe you can't. The results haven't quite shown it for Biggio yet, but he has been much better, legitimately much better, hitting the ball much harder since he's come back from injury. And I do think he's got a pretty good run coming for him. So if you want to get, maybe a little bit off of some of the Blue Jays chalk and a little bit of a cheaper option there, I think Kevin Biggio is a really solid option too.
Yeah, I like him. Really cheap on FanDuel as well. 2.7K for Biggio, second base and third base eligible. I think he's a very strong play on FanDuel. Title, thoughts at third base here?
Yeah, I think definitely a spend down position because there's so many good options and nothing really sticks out too much above the rest, where I think you plug third base, whatever you're stacking, you throw the third base in. If you want to stack KC today, you play Hunter Dozier, then you can go Hearn Dozier. Abdrubal Cabrera is 2.6K if you want to stack Arizona. Eugenio Suarez against Bubik's a very strong play at 3.9K. Alec Boehm, he'll probably be one of the forgotten Phillies, 3.7K. He's in the 7 hole. I don't mind playing him at all down there. Austin Riley, if you were doing the LBs, Freddie Freeman, throw him there, 4.2K. Kevin Biggio, that's pretty much the cheapest exposure you can get to Toronto, and we know the upside he does have. So definitely a spend down or the mid-tier position to spend down, and so many good options. Eugenio Suarez is probably my favorite, but I'm just going to play it. Whoever I'm stacking in tournaments, that's where I'm going to go with third because there's so many good options.
Yeah, there's a lot of good options, and like DC kind of pointed out, pretty reasonably priced too. You're not really paying a premium for anyone in this at this position. So it's a good position to kind of save up a little bit of money. Suarez at 3.9. I really like Suarez at 3.9. 3.9, you're not breaking the bank. Like you can still play him and not sacrifice much with your lineup. So definitely a solid position. All right, let's talk shortstop. And shortstop might be the worst, in my opinion, on the slate. We have spends. If you want to go all the way to the top, you can play Fernando Tatis basically any single day, 6.2K. Bichette, phenomenal play, 5.9K. Can you spend that sort of money at this position? Maybe, depending on what you do with the rest of your lineup. In terms of some cheaper guys, we can go right back to the Phillies. Gregorius, 3.6K, hit the bomb last night. It looks really comfortable at the plate right now. I have a lot of interest in him. DC has talked a lot about this guy, Josh Rojas, 3.3K, assuming he's at the top of the lineup there for the Diamondbacks. Yeah, I guess those are just a few of the guys that I'm kind of looking at here. DC, what are you thinking here at shortstop?
Yeah, I think you hit most of them there, especially those kind of cheaper options. Rojas, I think I saw. I do like John Gray a little bit, but Rojas would be one of the first guys I would kind of put in my lineup against him. I assume he'll be leading off tonight for the D-backs. Hits righties pretty well. Again, I think you can go back to the Phillies for the highest owned shortstop on this slate. I think it'll be Didi Gregorius on DraftKings at 3,600. Hit a home run yesterday. You like lefties against Arrieta. Gregorius can even run a little bit. And of course, you throw in the weather in Chicago. So yeah, I think that's going to be the direction most people go. Hard to argue with it, frankly. Tatis, kind of a Vlad situation for me, where I do think he is the top option on the slate. Now, I don't think he stands out as much as a Bo Bichette. Stands out as far, because Bo Bichette, Trey Turner are both good options around him compared to where I do think Vlad has a clear advantage. But yeah, I mean, Tatis, because I don't think really people are going to be on San Diego. So then you can kind of play Tatis as that one-off, as you're right, as a shortstop hammer in that late night game. You can get, sometimes you get 30 to 40 fantasy points out of Fernando Tatis if he has a great game. So I do like him. And, he's one of the reasons why I won't have 100% DeGrom, because there are some just phenomenal hitters and phenomenal spots to pay up for, where, you get a huge game out of Tatis and he can make up the difference by himself. So I love him. A couple one-offs that I don't mind at low ownership. Brandon Crawford, been on him for frankly most of the year, just continues to hit bombs. Gets Adam Wainwright, who's a decent pitcher, but much worse against lefties. And no doubt Crawford could get the job done there. I guess I'll throw in Orlando Arcia. I mentioned him at third base for the Braves, hitting 7th at 2,600. Good punt. But yeah, I don't know, kind of a thin position here for sure. So I do think you'll see a ton of ownership on Gregorius. It's really honestly hard to argue against it. But I do think that's where most people are going to go.
Yeah. Title thoughts at the shortstop position.
Yeah, definitely not the strongest. If you have the money for Tatis or Bo Bichette, definitely like that. A couple other names that you guys didn't mention: Gleyber Torres against Justice Sheffield. Haven't mentioned too much about New York, but I mean, that's because Stanton, Aaron Judge.
We're not to the outfield yet.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get there, but this is where it starts with the Yankees. Justice Sheffield's not a good lefty. I like the Yankees. 3.7K. That's a little pivot off of DD too. So I like him. I know DC was talking, I think, about it in Discord earlier with people. Alcides Escobar, min price at 2K. He's batting leadoff. DC wasn't on the Alcides.
I was not trying to recommend Escobar.
No, you were on the other side.
Okay.
It was Phallic and Steven something. But I'm going to mention him because he is 2K. If you want to play Vlad, Rodon, and DeGrom somehow and make that work, you're going to need Alcides Escobar at min price at 2K. Could very well be leading off. I think he will be against Weathers. So you get an option all the way down at 2K. Didi Gregorius at 3.6, Gleyber 3.7 is the pivot. And then if you have the money to go Tatis or Bo Bichette, I'll never argue with that.
Yeah, there's a wide spread at the position. I mean, the two guys at the top are clearly, the top options, but DD's the one that's going to, garner most of ownership at a much cheaper price, 3.6K. Let's go to the outfield. And I mean, like always, outfield position is loaded today, simply no different. And, some of the guys at the top are just a little bit too cheap. We talked about the Toronto situation. George Springer, 5.1K. Bryce Harper, 5K. Just really nice price tags on those guys. Andrew McCutchen, 3.5K. Looked really good at the plate last night. He's hitting the ball very hard. 3.5K is a really nice price tag for him. I like these Orioles guys. Santander, 2.8K. Austin Hayes, 3K. Cedric Mullins, 3.9K. I like the Orioles as a sneaky stack. Teoscar Hernandez, 4.9K. Joey Gallo, 4.7K. Definitely have some interest in him. And then the Yankees guys, like you touched on, Aaron Judge, 5.4K. Where's our boy Stanton? Stanton is 4.8K. And then the last name I want to bring up is Castellanos, 5.7K, big boy price tag. But if you're stacking the Reds, make sure you definitely have Castellanos in there. Title, give me a quick rundown here in the outfield. I mean, a lot of guys. I obviously rattled off a bunch. Talk to me about a few of your favorites.
Yeah, Bryce Harper and Joey Gallo stick out right away. Just two guys that are way underpriced for the matchups and the best matchups. Harper 5K, Joey Gallo 4.7. They're going to have ownership for sure, but those are my two favorites. That's why I think in tournaments, if you do go Judge, Stanton, Glaber, I don't think the Yankees are going to be popular, and they make a lot of sense against a bad lefty. Couple other names, Andrew McCutchen, you mentioned that as well, 3.5K. That's like, I don't know what DraftKings is doing, but I mean, you get them for free in a good lineup spot. Phillies are going to be popular. I do like Baltimore, like you said. My favorite would be Austin Hayes. He's in the 2-hole at 3K. That's a very good price. Then the Toronto outfield too. Grichuk's in the 7-hole, but he's only 4.1K with power. Teoscar Hernandez, 4.9K, getting a little up there, but Toronto's by far the best offense on the slate. He's in a good lineup spot.
It doesn't really matter where you bat in the Toronto lineup. You know, it's like,
yeah, that's true.
Especially on the road too. I mean, on the road, they're guaranteed ninth inning at bat. Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't.
Yeah, he's gonna have guys all over the bases too, just like everybody else. Like,
that's true. He's a good play. So Grichuk, Hernandez, the Toronto guys. The last one I'll mention, Andrew Benintendi is also too cheap, 3.2K against Castillo. If you're going to go with the Hunter Dozier, Ryan O'Hearn, stuff like that, I would add Andrew Benintendi in there. Tons of ways to go. I'll leave some for DC, though, because we took a lot of the good ones.
Yeah. What do you got for us, DC?
I do agree with Harper and Joey Gallo being the top two outfield plays on the slate. Just overall, I'll take those guys over anybody else. I think you will get, if you want to, you can get some very, very high-end outfielders at extremely low ownership tonight. I don't think you'll see many people on Ronald Acuna, given just kind of how the slate is constructed. I don't think you'll see almost anybody on JD Martinez. I would guess maybe a 2% ownership, something like that on JD Martinez. I talked about the Red Sox. Listen, man, if Ohtani is not on his game like he was in last start, Martinez, Devers, Bogarts, Verdugo, they're going to do some damage in LA when they go right to that bullpen. So keep that in mind if you're playing multiple teams. I mean, the Toronto guys are all fantastic plays, of course. If you want to go cheaper, a couple guys I mentioned previously, both first base outfield eligible, Ryan O'Hearn and Gavin Sheets. Again, weather in Minneapolis, but I think it'll be okay. Maybe some guys will emerge. Jesus Sanchez is 2,300 for the Marlins, big slugging prospect against Gonsolin. I think he's a fine play. David Dahl is 2,300 against Urania. Again, not a huge David Dahl guy, but a lefty for Nearman Price, who's a power hitter against Urania. Count me in. So there are cheaper ways to go. It's kind of always the case with outfield where sometimes there's such good cheap options that you can get some of the higher end guys at lower ownership. I didn't even mention guys like Jordan Alvarez. I like both Yankees guys a ton. I like Castellanos. I mean, there's just so many guys. So it kind of just depends on how you're constructing the rest of your team. I think outfield is kind of one of the last positions I kind of fill in there, right? Because there's just ways you can go different stacks depending on how the rest of your team is constructed, price wise and stack wise.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's just such a loaded position, and we know the guys that are going to be owned. I mean, you rattle off some of those high upside guys that will virtually have no ownership at the position. Just so many good spends or so many super cheap options as well. It makes things very clear in terms of.
It'd be so easy to just write off players, but you're like, all right, well, this slate's going to start with Ronald Acuna batting against Chad Kuhl. And I got him at like 2% ownership. You're like, okay, this is a pretty good spot to be in. So it's just important to keep it an open mind when you're making your teams.
Yep. All right, let's see how we're doing. We have the stacks coming up next. Oh, phenomenal job on the likes. I mean, I didn't really even mention it. We're at about 200. We got about 500 people watching. So do us that favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Helps us to continue to bring you guys these shows for free on a daily basis. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. We're going to get into some of our favorite stacks. I'll go to you first, Title. I mean, outside of some of these more popular stacks, give me a couple that you're interested in.
Yeah, Toronto Phillies are the two best. So outside of those, I really am liking these Yankees. Stanton, Judge, Gleyber Torres. I think they're going to come in low own, late night hammer. I like Texas. The Rangers are very cheap. And then the third one, the Baltimore Orioles, because I am going to be spending up at pitcher. Those are my 3 favorite stacks, taking into price a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Orioles team. I just really good spot for them. I don't think many people will be on them, and they've popped up for some big games this season. So I'm with you on the Orioles. DC, a few stacks that you're interested in here outside of the popular ones.
Yeah, Blue Jays and Phillies, I think, are by far the 2 best, highest upside stacks. Outside of them, the Reds, I think, might go a little bit under the radar. They'll be owned for sure, but starting, I think 5 of the first 6 hitters are right-handed hitters. Chris Bubick has just shown a propensity to blow up time and time again. So I could see the Reds certainly doing some significant damage at what should be, I think, kind of low ownership. And we certainly didn't mention many, if any, Padres on this entire show, right? We talked about Fernando Tatis, but I don't think, looking at the rest of their lineup, I didn't think any of us mentioned Tommy Pham, Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado, Trent Grisham, Eric Hosmer, Will Myers. They didn't get a single mention till just now, which means they're going to be low owned. We say it time and time again. We kind of know what's going on here. Listen, they're getting Jeffrey Rodriguez, right? And the Nationals bullpen game. It's a fantastic spot for them. So if you're looking to get super contrarian, look at the Padres. And then I will throw in the Red Sox. Mentioned it a few times. Ohtani is impossible to predict as a pitcher. You just have no idea what version is going to show up. But, 10 to 20% of the time, it's a version that can't get out of the first or second inning. The Angels bullpen is bad, and it is gassed right now. And if we get the bad Ohtani, he just can't throw strikes. They'll knock him out in the first or second inning, and the Red Sox will feast. They have the guys to do the damage if you get the bad Ohtani. I think that's a critical thing where it's like, you don't want to bet on the crappy offense against Ohtani, because even if he gets knocked out, they might not do enough damage. The Red Sox will against that Angels bullpen. So you'll get those guys. I think perhaps the entire lineup at sub 5% for the Red Sox wouldn't shock me, in a spot where it's very easy to construct a narrative of them just absolutely smashing. So I do have some exposure to the Red Sox as well.
Yeah, that's a team later game too. 9:38 Eastern start.
Nobody's got Red Sox.
Yeah, those later start times, the ownership's always super low. So, I like that call. All right, now we're going to get into the plays of the day. We'll go to title first with the SO play of the day. Who do you got for us?
I'm going to go to a position that I don't love at shortstop. I keep talking about the Yankees. I think people are going to go DD, go all the way down to Alcides Escobar, stuff like that. And I think Gleyber Torres comes in very cheap, or very low own, against a bad lefty. Late night hammer too. Give me Gleyber Torres 3.7K as the SO play of the day.
Like it. All right. I'll go next with the 4X play of the day. I'm going to my Orioles squad. I'm definitely on the Orioles in tournaments here. I think they can do some damage against Mats. I'm going to take my boy Mountcastle to hit a bomb tonight, batting 4th. First base, outfield eligible on DK. Really good price tag at what is he at? He's somewhere in the
3.9, I think.
That's a good price tag. So give me Mountcastle to hit a bomb against Steven Matz tonight. All right. Lastly, going to DC. We're hitting up Mom's Basement, where you can get all the best fried goods, microwavable goods. Who do you got for us, DC, for the Mom's Basement play of the day?
He'll have some ownership, and he was my play of the day yesterday, but hit a home run for us, and it's just too good of a play. I'm going back to Joey Gallo. I've been recommending lefties against Urania all season long, and Joey Gallo is like the primary guy that you would want against Urania, because he can't strike anybody out. We know that's Joey Gallo's problem, and I think he's going yard tonight again. So I know he'll have some ownership. Usually try to go a little contrarian with this call, but not tonight. I'll pay that $4,700 for Gallo.
Very good. Like that call. I'm definitely on Gallo too. If you didn't hear at the beginning, Big T, JSU, Holden, final countdown. They'll be talking MLB. Then they'll be talking NBA Showdown, which Big T continues to crush on a regular basis. That is part of the premium product. RPS Heater 25 gets you 25% off first payment of a monthly package over here at Run Pure Sports. So get yourself signed up, watch that show, and you can print the giblets tonight with Mr. Big T. So check out that show. But we're going to get on out of here. Title is big night for title. Suns, Bucks. Good luck tonight. I don't know. I'm on the Suns, so obviously I think the Suns.
What's new?
Yeah, I gotta keep going against title. I gotta be right. I'm gonna be right eventually.
Yeah, this is the series if there is one. I am nervous, but hey, I'm gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Go Bucks for sure.
All right, for title, for DC. I'm Hoop. Good luck tonight in your contest.
Good luck, everybody. Go Bucks.